It was a warm, beautiful August afternoon in Kampala, Uganda, my beloved city, my beloved home. Family had gathered in the living room to listen to a radio broadcast by our president, Idi Amin Dada. Little could we have imagined that our lives would have been shattered and we would spiral into a sense of shocking disbelief by that announcement. For you see, in that terrifying moment, the president announced that he wanted everybody of Indian origin to leave his country, otherwise, in 90 days, otherwise we would be shot on sight. My name is Amber Chand. I'm a storyteller, a coach, a visionary entrepreneur who has dedicated my life to the empowerment of women and to fostering healing between cultures. Today, through my Dream a New Dream, Live a New Story programs and retreats, I facilitate conversations on how we can navigate times of uncertainty with vision and courageous love. That brutal presidential edict was to affect the lives of 80,000 Ugandan citizens, all of Indian origin, who suddenly found ourselves stateless, without a home, without a homeland. In the next 2 months, our properties were confiscated, our assets were frozen, our possessions were looted, our passports seized, our identities erased. Adversity had arrived at our door. And standing on the abyss of that dark, uncertain future, we found ourselves to be impoverished refugees, global nomads, exiles at the mercy of a bewildering world. Our past had pushed us out. No matter, adversity can come in many guises. It can be a divorce, a death, ill health, climate catastrophe. But no matter how adversity arrives in our lives, it always comes with one essential question. What will become of me now? That question haunted me during that terrifying time as a young 21-year-old Indian Ugandan woman who had just graduated university and was looking forward to a bright future. But in that moment, I had to ask, how will this terrible event affect my life? What is the story I will one day tell my children? What will happen to me and my family now? I wept and wept for everything that was lost. But here is one thing I want you to know. Even though that dictator had destroyed my home, I knew he could not destroy my spirit. He could not destroy my will to live, my love of life. In that truth, I felt unshakable. They say it is not so much the event in your life that matters, but your response to the event, the choice you make, the meaning you create, the story you choose to tell. When asked how he could remain so calm and joyful despite being expelled brutally from his homeland in Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama said simply, "It is because of the adversity, not in spite of it." Viktor Frankl, famed psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, said, We must say yes to life. Suffering is inevitable, but how we respond to that suffering is our choice. And then he went on to say, the ability to choose your attitude under any given circumstance is the last of the human freedoms. Adversity forces us to the very edge of everything we know, and we are asked to choose the story we will seek to live in, either as helpless victims or as conscious, courageous creators of our story and destiny. Our stories shape who we are. They give us meaning. They give us a sense of belonging. They are the stars that we navigate by. During times of adversity, when the stories around us get so shaken up, we can easily drift into a sea of confusion and chaos, unable to make sense of what we do, what we see, who we are becoming. In other words, we lose our grounding. We lose our grounding and are left with that one anguished question. What will become of us now? That is the question that Paskazi, the Rwandan basket weaver, asked as she stood there with 30 women from her village a few months after the genocide in Rwanda in 1994. A genocide that led to a tribal slaughter of over 1 million people in just 3 months. I met Paskazi when I arrived in Rwanda almost 9 years later on a business mission to support women artisans rebuild their lives in areas of conflict. And Paskazi wanted to tell me a story of how the Rwandan women, the widows, met their adversity. A story that so moved me that to this day, I carry it with me. Sisters, she said, our men have lost their way. We must find our way or we will go mad with our grief. And the women stood there, so many with machete scars on their head, in desperate silence, under the suffocating heat, not knowing what to do. Until Paskazi, a master basket weaver, had an idea, a simple but unusual idea, one that would transform into a profound story, actually, of healing and reconciliation. She instructed the women thus. She invited them all to come into a circle under a eucalyptus tree. Hutu must sit next to Tutsi, very important. And then she told the women she wanted them to create the Rwandan basket, the traditional Rwandan basket, row by row. When one woman finished a row, she passed it to the next. When the next woman finished her row, she passed it to the next. And so the basket went around and around the circle until it was complete. And Paskazi said, "This, sisters, is our basket of sorrows. We must come back every day until the sun sets and weave these baskets together. This is the only way until our tears dry up. This is the only way we will not go mad." And that is what the widows did, one basket at a time. When Paskazi had finished her story, she smiled at me through her tears, and she said, "These widows came there to that circle for many, many months, wailing, sobbing, singing through their despair, until," she said, You could see the healing in their eyes. That is the way we met our pain. I was so moved and so inspired by Paskazi's story that through my online company, we launched the Rwandan Peace Basket Initiative in 2003. Thousands sold. In the United States, American audiences were captivated by the story behind the Peace Basket. They were featured in Oprah magazine. My Rwanda journals were published in Marie Claire magazine. And in a subsequent meeting with the President Kagame, he told me that the Rwandan Peace Basket was the #1 non-agricultural export out of that country that year. The widows sang and celebrated, their dignity restored, and their story now an example to the world of how you can meet adversity. A year later, I arrived in Jerusalem on a mission with the Business Council of Peace, carrying with me the vision of the Rwandan basket weavers. Was it possible, we asked, to bring together Israeli and Palestinian craftswomen, artisans, in a collaborative initiative of healing and reconciliation? Could women's hands become a force for peace? Out of that question, we created the Jerusalem Candle of Hope, a complex initiative between Palestinian embroiderers and Israeli candle makers. Again, the Jerusalem Candle of Hope captivated the imagination of American audiences. We sold thousands, and the story of the vision of healing and reconciliation amongst women in the Middle East began to ferment. The Rwandan widows had shown them the way. Paskazi's story is a testament to the resilient spirit that resides in all of us. A resilience that asks us not just to recover from a traumatic event, but to rise up from it, to transform our lives because of it. His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, "Many people think adversity is a problem, but what if it is an opportunity destiny has sent you? What if?" That is our question. It is the questions we ask, the questions we don't ask, the questions we're afraid of asking that shape our journey through adversity. Questions are like doorways that lead us on a quest to the very edge of what we know. They challenge us to explore that arena, that landscape that lies beyond the familiar. In my visionary work, I talk about two kinds of questions: survival questions and visionary questions. Survival questions keep us in survival. They're fear-based. And they keep us captive to what we know, what we can predict, what we can control. They keep us in our comfort zones. And as we know, very little grows in our comfort zones. Visionary questions, on the other hand, are more expansive. They ask us to look at our lives from a bigger, deeper perspective. What do I love? What is my gift? How am I to contribute my gift to my world? Where survival questions always ask, how do I survive this? Visionary questions ask, how will I grow from this? In the fall of 2017, a month after my mother died, cancer came knocking at my door. The sudden diagnosis of early-stage breast cancer flung me into the steel gray world of cancer treatment with its protocol of surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. And as I faced this adversity, I remember asking a question of cancer, because I knew that that question would shape the cancer story for me. And this is the question I asked: Have you come to punish me or awaken me, Cancer? Have you come to remind me that I am a helpless victim on this journey, or am I the creator of my Cancer story? Which is it to be? The choice was entirely mine to make. So rather than experience Cancer as an adversary to be afraid of, I decided to befriend Cancer. I befriended Cancer through my reflective journaling, my meditations, my visualizations, my dialogues with Cancer. I would write in my journal, "Dear Cancer," letters to Cancer, because I knew that Cancer had come to reveal secrets, truths about who I am, if I only pay attention. Joseph Campbell, the mythologist, says, "The cave you are afraid to enter holds the treasures you seek." Cancer was indeed a fierce teacher. And yet, over time, as I walked into the cave, I realized that I was being led on an initiation. I learned many lessons. I learned that the power of unexpressed grief on our body's well-being. I learned about the humility it took to face a disease like cancer. I learned about the courage it took to ask for help and the vulnerability it took to receive help. I learned about the compassion and love that I needed to give to myself and my body. There is this lovely quote from the Mexican writer, Don Luis Miguel. He says, "How are you going to write your life story? There's only one way, and that is with love." Cancer was my fire path to love. Adversity was my formidable guide. Today we are in a turbulent world. We stand on the edge of an abyss of profound uncertainty. Some see this as a time of awakening. Others see this as a time of unraveling. Some see it as a time of apocalypse. Others of a time of possibility. But no matter how we see this time, we are asked to make a choice rooted in wisdom and courageous love, not just panic and despair. In her work on revolutionary love, Valerie Kaur asked this potent question: is this darkness the darkness of the tomb or the darkness of the womb? Is our future dying or is it birthing? Is this the time of the great transition? What if is the question we must all ask ourselves now. A question that asks us to unleash our imagination and begin to explore a new story, a new vision, because without our dreams, we will drift. And without our vision, we will lose our way. So let us stand on the edge of this time and ask ourselves perhaps this question: what if this is a time of breakthrough, catalyzed by collapse, that is urging us to awaken to a new vision for our shared humanity? What if this is a time of deep belonging when we seek sanctuaries of safety in one another? What if the adversity we're facing is actually beckoning us to rise with brave, resilient spirit? So let us stand here now and see ourselves as storytellers, ready to tell a new story, dreamers ready to dream a new dream, map makers willing to chart a new path into the new story, and alchemists ready to transform the grit of our past into the vision of into the gold of a new vision. Let us be brave as we step into the unknown and design a new symphony for the future. Yes, yes, yes. Let us dream it into being, my friends, for it is waiting for us. Thank you. Thank you.